This is Every Woman with me, Emprezz Golding, coming to you live on Nationwide 90 FM and also streaming live on Nationwide 90 FM's YouTube channel. I have the honor to be in the studio with the great Beverly Manley Duncan. All right, welcome to the show! Yes!
Thank you. When I walked in here, I said, oh, that looks like the young Beverly Manley. Or Beverly Anderson.
Right, at the time. Yes, they call me the young Beverly Anderson today.
She's fully garbed in her head tie and what we used to call a dashiki.
That's
a long dashiki.
Yes, I am. You know, I was channeling the young Beverly when I came in today because I said to myself, I mean, I totally admire the afro. I admire the way that you present yourself, and seeing you right up until now, it's just really, I feel like a daughter sitting at the feet of her mother.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I share that view.
Yes, and she's a mother, and she is everything. She is every woman. So we're going to start at the very beginning, my lady. We're looking at love. We're looking at life. We're looking at womanhood. We're looking at politics, and we're talking everything that we can over lunch today. So, Lady Beverly, I know you went to St. Hugh's. You have a brand new documentary out, but we're going to just start with the little girl, right? Oh. When you were a little girl, and many little girls may be listening, they don't like their hair, they don't like their kink. We still have issues with skin and not loving our blackness. As a little girl going to St. Hugh's, what was life like for you at that time? And tell me the year.
I think I was fortunate because of my early socialization. Although my mother was high brown and my father black. And they didn't go to the wedding because my mother insisted that she was marrying this black man.
Her parents didn't turn up?
No, they didn't turn up. So I grew up with this story.
Yes.
And she never made us forget that story. And she was also privileged to listen to Marcus Garvey. So, she had all of that stuff going on. And she was the dominant force in the marriage. And when I look back on it and said my father seemed so powerless at the time because he just allowed her to whatever. And I say, maybe he was really powerful to be able to step back and look on and not interfere, knowing that if he interfered, it would make matters worse. So that's the stuff. You see, the thing is, I think one of the things we're not recognizing now, but I'm hearing more and more, is family. And I'm not talking about the average family. I'm talking about family. It could be me and you, a hybrid family, but children have to grow up in that village. They have to, if they are to become effective in life.
So you had that family,
I had
foundation.
that family, although my mother kept us away from the wider family because she felt she was the only one who could socialize us. So, and she said that's why she had 3 daughters and a son, because we can keep each other's company. So we're getting it. We're getting it when we went to school, prep school, getting it when we went to Franklin Town School, getting it when I went to St. Hugh's, to a lesser extent, when I went to St. Hugh's. But I was prepared internally, whether I knew it or not, because I wasn't thinking, of course. Well, how could I think I would end up where I did?
Right.
But
and
she prepared us for life.
She prepared you for life. But you also had, at the time, what year are we looking at when you were going to high school? The year,
high
the
school
period.
was late 50s.
Late 50s. Tell me about Jamaica. Tell me about the smell. Tell me about the food. Tell me about the slang in the 50s. As a young black girl, a lot of girls have issues now where they're bullied because of their hair or their skin. Did you go through that?
Well, the thing is, I think like most teenagers at the time, it started out with the straightening of the hair, which was horrible because you could get burnt, right? But by the time I got into my 60s, certainly by the time I met Michael in, 69, I was wearing an afro. And the blackness became even more real for me when I went to London. Because I was in London in the 60s, and it was the best of times and the worst of times. Worst of times in terms of the heavy racism. That people they didn't even try to hide it, the white people. They would have say, on the flats, we're not renting to niggers or dogs.
My God.
And I told a story on another interview how Barbara Blake, myself, Maud Fuller, were 3 other people who went back to Pinewood Studios in London to finish a film called High Wind in Jamaica on the production side. And Perry Henzel was the local, Vista Productions was the local company that really was in charge of the overseas companies who came here to film. We would always provide the local people for it. And I was working full-time with Perry at the time on the production side. So we went back to London. That film, by the way, starred Anthony, I always forget his name, it's not Flynn. Anthony Quinn.
Yes.
You actually know the name?
Yes.
Because when I said the name, to anybody under the age of whatever, they said, who?
But even when you said Barbara Blake Hannah, she was one of the first black broadcasters in England. So we have so much history to share. And I just want to throw the names out so we can remember.
Yes, I left her in London because we ended up sharing a flat because my younger sister was there as well. So since there were three of us, we knew we could live almost anywhere we wanted to in London, and yet you couldn't get a flat. So that was the first upset. So I remember going into one of these estate agencies, and the lady just kept saying, we have nothing for you. We have nothing for you. And by then we had been to about 10 and hearing the same language. And Barbara just looked at her and said, if you can't rent us a flat because we are black, why don't you just say that? Exactly. And we wheeled out of the room. Yeah. Now, Barbara was very fierce then, because she used to get a weekly letter, I hope she has them, from her father, Evan Blake, who I think was the founder of the Press Association of Jamaica. Very prominent, yes. And very black and proud. And he used to send her a letter every week. And it would start something like this, right? Never forget who you are. You are the Barbara Blake. And we used to share those letters. They kept us going. They kept us strong,
But you didn't feel that kind of racism here. You didn't see it. It wasn't like that here. But there was something of that sort.
But
it
you
was
must
different.
remember Jamaica, we like to keep things under the table.
Okay.
Very diplomatic. We don't really tell our truth. And when you do tell the truth, you have to be prepared to be judged. And, all my adult life, I have been judged, fiercely judged.
I'm surprised you're still here. How are you able to still stand and still create this documentary, telling even more than what we may already know, the Beverly Manley Uncensored documentary?
I'm just raring to go.
Yes.
I was watching Jane Fonda the other night, and she was talking about her third act, and that you must see aging as, you go and you grow, and then you come back down and you die. Instead, you can choose. That's the thing. When you understand the power of choice, that even if what is around you is poverty and despair, but you can choose not to be determined by what is around you, because you have the power inside of you. So I've become a very serious spiritual person. Not in the sense of going to church every Sunday, but to speak my truth from my heart and take whatever it brings. Yes. And it's okay.
And it is okay. Women, speak your truth. Write it down. I'm going to speak my truth. So quickly about the documentary, because there's so many things I want to ask you, and I still want you to remind me about the food and the smell at the time, what was burning in the air in the 50s, but before we do that, let's remind the listeners that the documentary is out. It premiered Sunday. Where are we today? On Sunday. I did catch it first. Did you get to watch it?
No, I was at a PNP NEC meeting.
Okay. And still active in the People's National Party. She's still in politics.
In a different way, but what I want to bring to any organization I'm in now is the message of transformation.
Yes.
And how we have to do an inquiry into self before we even attempt to give something to others. Because when you know who you really are and you take responsibility for who you are and choices you make, then you can engage somebody else.
That's right. We have to have it's Relationship Tuesday. We need to have healthy relationships, and it does start with us. Then we can have healthy relationships with everybody else.
Exactly.
Beverly Manley Uncensored, an intimate portrait of a Jamaican icon. Part 1 of 4 in the series can be seen on YouTube. I watched it and I was like, yes, these stories need to be told, and I can't wait to hear more. It's on Intelligent TV.
Yes.
So we want to also big up Joelle, the director, producer, writer,
Joelle
young
Paul.
woman.
She has been amazing.
I met her the other day.
Yes.
I did. And what a beautiful young woman. So she's telling your story, woman to woman. And for the rest of the world, you can catch it on ADTELLIGENT TV. Let's continue talking more about you.
I think it's Adtelligent.
It's Adtelligent?
Not ADE. I think it's
ADT.
T.
Adtelligent, yeah.
Adtelligent.
AD and intelligent.
Yes.
Hearing from the boss. You know, she's a former radio host as well. The Breakfast Club with the great Anthony Abrahams.
Yeah.
Yes, she's done it all. She's a mother. She's a grandmother, I found out as well. Yeah, she is the former wife, First Lady. She was married to Jamaica's Prime Minister Michael Manley, former Prime Minister 1972 to 1970. Wow. To 90, that's a long time. We're talking about how you stay so long. These men are crazy. I'm married. I'm doing 10 years. She did 1972 to 1973. He was the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, 1972 to 1980.
And we're together 3 years before that, so you could actually say 13.
30 years. That rough.
13.
That rough. And then she married Dr. Duncan as well. We're talking relationships. We're talking life, but it starts with self. The great Beverly Manley sits with me for lunch right up until 2:30 for lunch on a Relationship Tuesday. Before the break, I said she was married to the former Prime Minister of Jamaica from 1972 to 1973. Not Nogoso. She stayed until 1993. My gosh. We're going to go to that in a minute because it is a Relationship Tuesday, but we're talking about you now, Beverly Anderson. Your life as a teen going into your early 20s. You were a model. You were an actress. Tell me about all the things that you were doing and what were the dreams then? Because at 19, I remember going, oh, Lord, what am I going to do with my life? What were you doing?
I think I was doing that too. You know, what am I going to do with my life? But I have been very fortunate that at each step of my life, as I reflect on it, I am amazed at how somebody was there to take me along. Even when I didn't know what I was capable of, there was always somebody who saw something in me that I couldn't see. But I guess partly why I was able to recognize that person is because I was paying attention. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I want to get out in this series here now with the documentary and even the interviews, to young women, 19-year-olds, teenagers. Of course, we're going to have fun and do all kind of reckless things. Yes, we know that. But always pay attention. That person who is going to walk with you for the next step could be under your nose and you're not seeing them. Pay attention. Why am I seeing so-and-so so often? And why am I being drawn to what so-and-so is saying? Pay attention. That really helped me because I realized I was paying attention because I used to do summer jobs at Parish Council of St. Catherine because Daddy, who was a station master at the railway, had now moved to Spanish Town. And the gentleman who headed the council at the time was a man called R.D.G. Lois. I don't know if I ever found out what those initials were,
right?
but I remember them. And he just took charge of me. He said, no, you shouldn't be just filing stuff. Would you like to come to the council meetings once a month and take the minutes? I said, what? I said, no, that's not me. I wouldn't have a clue, although I could do shorthand. I just know I wasn't ready for that. He said, no, you're ready for that. That's the kind of thing I mean. At another
Jump at the opportunity.
Yes.
Yes.
When the same Anthony Quinn came to Jamaica, he used to sit with us during the breaks, a group of about 3 or 4 of us. Only 3 or 4 of us, were interested. And I was amazed at his intellectual prowess. I mean, he knew everything about everything. So every break I would make sure I was in that 4. I was paying attention.
Yeah.
And therefore, that really helped me in the climb. You could say up. I don't have another word to put it. But just advancing my own competence and so on. So I'm sitting at home one day because I decided that it was time for me to leave Parish Council because the plan, I think, was to stay there as a temporary person, then get appointed in a local government service. That was the dream. And after, when I got to the stage here where I realized I wanted much more than that, I just left, went home, sitting on the veranda, and then walk up and down Kingston looking for a job, literally knocking on doors and saying, This is my resume. Do you have a space for me? And it got to a stage. I never got frustrated, but it got to a stage where that had to end. And I'm sitting on the veranda one day, and Neville Witter, who was Perry Hensel's partner, came and said, Beverly, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing nothing. He said, what? Great. Our secretary has gone on leave, and we need somebody to just sit in the office at Vista. I said, oh, I'd love that. And then when he told me about her involvement, I said, I think I like that. And I went there, never left, because she never came back. She phoned to say she wasn't coming back.
Oh, so
and
you were the secretary
I
now,
was
full-time.
Let me tell you, when you work in a small office like that, you know,
Everything.
and they were doing everything at the time, mainly television commercials. May have been one of the few, if not the only company doing that. So, of course, you know, I was paying attention. So I was getting to everything, you know, behind the camera. I knew I could never, ever see myself in front of the camera. Never. I was too shy.
How did you end up acting in The Harder They Come?
Well, and somebody stepped up in the office at Perry Hensel one day, and this man comes in. I don't have permission to call his name. I don't even know if he's still alive. Tall, I remember him being tall, dark, and handsome. And he said, Beverly, why are you not on television? I said, me? I am a behind-the-scenes person. I cannot be on television. I would be hopeless on television. By this time, when I was in London, I did a course in film technique. So I came back with a little more, you know. So he never stopped. It's like somebody said to him, take a set and arm, don't stop. In the end, he just wore me down. I said, okay. Went and did a test at JBC at the time, and they loved it. Even I said, oh, my God, I never knew I could do that. Right. So that's how I got into.
So you were at JBC as a broadcaster, reading the news?
Well, that was not easy for women at the time.
Right.
I don't know if people remember that, but like the Sunday night news was very special. And I remember there were people like Erica Allen, who were ahead of me, Leonie Forbes, who literally took me another person in my life, who just taught me everything.
I love that woman.
Oh,
I did a movie with her,
yes.
A Family Affair,
Yeah.
and we spent time in
You
the same
should,
time.
does she know how you love her?
Oh, I'm going to call her.
I'm
My
going-
producer tried to reach out the other day. I'm going to call
Yes,
Leonie Forbes.
yes.
These women in our history who've really paved the way.
let me tell you.
And are so loving and so giving.
Oh.
Like what you are to Sonia and others who've worked with you.
Yes, you must phone
Yeah,
Leonie.
I will.
Because she can't get around as much as she would like to and so on. And so they just stepped in and just really, what can I say, surrounded me.
Yeah.
And so I became...
A black woman reading the news.
Yes, hard enough. Or just woman.
Woman alone.
Women were not thought to, have the authority to be able to read the news.
But look at us now.
I never said that, though. You did.
I take it. I said it.
I was saying it in my head.
Yes. And you weren't supposed to be in The Harder They Call Me. You were telling me earlier that what happened? The actress didn't show up?
She didn't show up, and Perry said, Beverly, you know, we're on a tight, because we had no money, we're on a tight budget. We can't waste the day. So we are on location at some house in Upper St. Andrew, and he says, go home, get the best middle class dress that you have, and come back and do the part. That's before I was on television. And I said, you're crazy, Perry, I can't do those things.
Yes.
You see what the pattern you're seeing? People seeing in me,
What
but
you
I was
couldn't
not
see.
seeing in me. But that's another story. So I rushed home and came back.
You found your middle class dress.
Found my middle class. I can see it right now.
I am going to play it for my listeners who are watching the live stream on Nationwide Night.
Who left the gate open?
How did you?
Who left the
What
gate
were you
open?
doing there?
Who left the gate open?
2022. And that's the tragedy of Jamaica.
Same.
And, you know, I'm just remembering now that I look at it, that I, in fact, took like about 3 different outfits, you know, which would have been the norm. And they chose it. So it was like a silk shirt and silk slacks. But let me tell you something. What sometimes you wonder, you know how much has changed, but the whole thing of color and class is way behind. So sad.
Yeah.
And this is why I know that, as Jane Fonda would say, I'm in my 3rd act.
You're in your 3rd act.
And ready to go.
I want to go now from Anderson, actress, television presenter, broadcaster, to moving now to how did you meet Michael Manley? I want to know the day you met him You were a producer as well. So you were woman of all trades. She could do everything. But tell me the story of meeting him. And at that time in Jamaica in the 70s, being a black woman and marrying this great white man, though. He has a drop of Negro, though, doesn't he?
More than a drop.
Okay. So once you have a drop of Negro, you're a Negro, says Marcus Garvey. Let's go there.
You'd hate you to call him anything but a black man.
Okay. So, but Garvey did say if you have a drop. But when we looked at it and the classism that we have in Jamaica, where the lighter skin, better opportunities, the darker, they call us the field slaves. And we've been through a very terrible history with that and how we treat each other. And at this time, nobody wants to see you with your afro, right, on the hand of Michael Manley. Tell me about when you met him.
I think that I could describe that as the most traumatic time of my life. But meeting him was also the happiest time in my life, because I'd never met anybody quite like that. So caring and giving and
Mr. Lover Man.
You know
Manley,
what?
we've heard the story. We're gonna go through that because it's a relationship Tuesday. So where were you exactly? I want to know, like, the first day you laid eyes on him and him on you. What was that interaction?
Modeling. I was at JBC, and he had come in to do his usual union talk. And those days we used to have duty announcers. So I'd be sitting there, linking everything throughout the day. And then they would say, it's time for the NW broadcast. And he'd come on. So that's how I became familiar with the name. And I remember thinking to myself, why does he talk like that? Because it's like you're talking on one level. And, the announcers used to say among ourselves, boy, your time, Beverly, because it's time to go to sleep.
He was putting them to sleep. He didn't have the gift of the gab.
People don't believe that,
Right.
But let me tell you, Wycliffe, when it came to me, and he was a general manager at the time, he said, Beverly, the producer for Michael Manley's thing, he comes in on a Saturday morning to record this thing, and the producer is not available. So I said, so why are you talking to me? He said, because you're going to produce him. Here I go again, thinking I could do what I know I couldn't do, It wouldn't even occur to me I could do that. But the thing is, because of the way I was brought up, I was not frightened by VIPs, or that didn't really bother me. It was in my mindset. So I came this Saturday morning, greeted him, and he did the talk right through from start to finish. And then he looked at me and he said, how was that? And that was very strange, because people usually just come in and they had to do and leave. Mm-hmm. He said, how was I said, it was awful.
Oh. She's honest.
I didn't even feel like it was me talking. And he said, what? Like what? And I said, well, you asked me, I'm just telling you that when I'm on duty and you come on, I go to sleep. I take a break until you're finished. So I was very honest with him, and to my surprise, he just said, what can I do? I have a strike at Alpart or someplace, and I have to get down there as quickly as possible. Is there anything I can do in a hurry like now? I said, well, if you have enough time, we could spend 5 or 10 minutes talking about what you did, listening to it, and then you could go back on and do it. And he said, wow, really? And I said, yes. And he said, let's go. Again, I was surprised at the way he took it. And he was like a student. Mm-hmm. He just allowed me to lead him. And of course, that was very impressive.
A woman likes when a man allows us to lead. We're going to pick up on that story after this. A quick break.
Whatever your personal financial needs, Lasco Microfinance has a loan for you. Call or apply online today. The time by Lasco Microfinance is...
Ooh, it's 2:01 in the afternoon and I feel so good. All right, we're going to pick up on that story of meeting Michael Manley. He was giving one of his trade union speeches at JBC, and the Queen Beverly says, "You know what? That speech was horrible. Let me lead you. Let me help you."
He walked in with his script.
Yes, go ahead.
So he was being taped.
Ah.
So it was like taping on Saturday for the next week kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And he allowed me to really. And when we played back the tape, when he did it over, he couldn't believe it. He says, I don't believe it. Because, even that little thing like, how do you color your words? As a broadcaster, you'll understand that. And the energy you bring to the thing, because a lot of it didn't have any energy. So when he listened to it, he said, oh my God, what's that me? I said, yes.
And
Then
that
he
was the
said,
beginning of it all.
beginning of joys.
Yeah. yes. So let's go here now. When was the first kiss? And then we're going to go into the marriage and becoming the first lady. Who would have ever thought that you would have become first lady? You didn't believe it. Like a lot of times you couldn't see it in you. And not just about being the wife, but the things that you did as a woman at the time in politics is very important for us to look at women's leadership at that level.
And again, it comes back to team and that pivotal person at the time. Who was able to just guide. Michael was that for me in the 70s, was able to guide me through. And we got to the stage where before the first kiss, I fell in love with his intellect. I'd never met anybody, maybe outside of Anthony Quinn, who spoke like that. He knew everything about everything.
So that's what turned you on.
Totally.
The mind.
Mind.
That my husband do to me. His bright son turned me on. So that's what Michael did to you.
Yes.
All right. And then when was the first kiss? You know, woman talk. Like, when did you
yes,
first?
I think the first kiss could have been at the end of that long night. Because we had dinner and then we went back to my flat. And I made my position very clear that,
no hanky-panky on the
that's
first
right.
date?
And he accepted, I just said no hanky-panky.
Okay.
So he said, and he understood that and he respected that. So we ended up talking all kinds of politics and realized that we came from the same mode. Like, the essence of what we believed in was how do you lift up the marginalized of the people? And that this was also in keeping with the vision that Norman Manley had for the PNP in 1938. So, we just talked and talked and talked. And at about 6 o'clock in the morning, I think we had our first embrace.
Was he a good kisser?
I would say so.
Yeah, because you like to teach, or you had to teach him a thing or two.
No, I didn't have to teach him. By that time, he had been married 3 times.
Right, I was going to say that. Like, a lot of us are like, whoa, you've been married 3 times. You became the 4th wife. Were you nervous about that?
No.
No?
Didn't bother me at all because I knew it was going to be a different, not better necessarily, but he was by then a different person. And I was a totally different person. So that didn't bother me. It bothered my mother. Because although I came out of a PNP family, you could say even like a Manley family, my mother said, how on earth are you going to, she didn't say it like that. She said, you're going to go marry a man we're married 3 times already? Is mad, you're mad?
Is mad, you're mad.
Mad, you're mad. So anyway, and then when she was, as I wanted to meet him, and she said, yeah, you can bring him come, but make him know, say, me not treat him no different from nobody else. Somebody come here and think same is anybody better than anybody. Just tell him, say, if him can't come, and him know, say, him just treat like everybody else, nobody come.
Before you got married, was he keeping you undercover? Who knew about this relationship?
Yes, for a while. We were, he did not want, since an election was imminent, he did not want to shift anything in the voters. And that he had been married 3 times, was about to be married 4 times, and was known as a playboy and all of that. He said, can we keep it quiet? So we actually got engaged, I think, by about 72 was the election.
Yes.
I would say in the 70.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got engaged early.
Oh, you were engaged and for 2 years.
And I wore this to show you the ring.
That's the ring?
Today. Yes.
You can't leave it for me. Let me touch it. It's a that's the ring he gave you? Yeah. It's gorgeous. I like it. But she's probably going to hand it down to one of her grandchildren or
I
her
wish
daughter.
they would get excited the way you go.
Yes. Oh, I love history. I love jewelry. Listen, I love all those things. So you were engaged for 2 years. 72 happened. We had the election. He won that one. And when did you get married?
June of that year, 72.
This is after
after he was sworn in.
After he was sworn in.
Yes.
You pop it on the world now that you're getting married with your afro out and about.
They got
what
a glimpse.
Did they say?
They got a glimpse before because there's a photograph of me. A couple of photographs of us being out, although we were being, I remember one that was taken when we were watching the annual pantomime, because I always went to the pantomime.
Yes.
And that was a very clear one of the 2 of us. So the news started to spread. And the marriage itself was interesting because we decided to have it in Edna Manley's garden. And then I had to get to know her. Yeah. I was nervous.
How was that?
The only time I can remember being nervous about anything.
Yes.
But when he said, come, you have to come and meet Mom today. So,
I mean, meeting the moms always
at lunch. At lunch.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a round table. By this time, NW had died in the late 1960s. And so it was not the kind of dinner table I was accustomed to, although we had to behave at the dinner table. You know, you didn't have all these knives and forks and somebody serving. And
so it was a whole...
And I remember his aunt was there, who was even more terrified of. Aunt Muriel, that's NW's sister.
Okay.
But he said, you sit beside me. You just sit beside me.
And were they kind to you? I can imagine
they
how
were lovely,
of
course. Perfect manners. Lovely. And the fact that he was beside me made me get rid of the nerves. Because we touch each other, even when it wasn't necessary to touch each other. You know that young love thing?
Yeah, man. I sure do.
And Edna Manley actually said to me, you know what? Come and spend 2 weeks with me before the marriage. Because she had a clear understanding of what being the Premier's wife or Prime Minister's wife was going to be like. So I actually stayed in her guest room for 2 weeks leading up to. So a lot of the marriage, and so we planned together and we got to know each other. And
nice. And did she ever whisper in your ear, you see them man, yeah? Let me tell you about them man, yeah, you know. Because the chip no fall far from the block,
but of course she wouldn't have said it.
Not like that.
No.
The great Edna Manley. So you got married.
Oh, that was another black thing, you know, because she was into straight blackness, you know.
Oh, she was? Oh, of course. We see the immense everything that she's done.
Well, all our sculptures and everything. Yes. So, you know, it was...
So she was okay and embracing
of man. But, you know, it was just a little terrifying for me at first. Let me give you an example. She asked me to get a birthday card for Natasha. When Natasha was maybe 4, I don't know. And I'm searching the place to find a birthday card with a black purse image on it. Couldn't find it. In the end, I gave up and I bought one. I just had a tiny picture of a white person. And when she saw the card, she says, Beverly, you bought that card? I said, we used to call her Maddie. I said, Maddie, I searched everywhere and couldn't find a black image. She says, well, Natasha is not getting a card. She loved to write, so she wrote her a note instead. When her book was written, her biography, I think, by Wayne Brown, I think in one, which is an excellent biography, in one section of it, he refers to her as a white woman. I don't think she ever got over it. She was so upset. So she was very much into her blackness. I don't know how ready she was for later on in her life, like with the clothes you have on and the hair. I don't know, not going there, but her sculptures and all that is what she gave to us.
Yes, yes.
You know, in the middle of the 70s when things were really going bad now, she did a sculpture, and I have a photograph of it. And the sculpture is that gentleman allowed in here?
Who?
Well, women are having, men are like that, you know. What is he doing? Why are men like that?
This is breaking news from Nationwide Radio.
Minutes after 2 o'clock, we interrupt to bring you an item of breaking news. Police Constable Noel Maitland has been charged for murder in relation to the missing young lady, Donnelly Donaldson, who went missing on July 13. The announcement of him being charged for murder was made a short while ago at a media briefing being put on by the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So we can tell you there's been this big development in the Donnelly Donaldson case. Her boyfriend, Noel Maitland, has been charged for murder. We'll have more in our program at 5. Sorry, Beverly.
Take
Beverly.
a deep breath in And isn't that the way life is? In the middle of our ladies' lunch. You know, I had to remark when I saw Cliff Hughes walking here, why is he interrupting? Men have a way of taking
over our lunch.
Taking
right?
over
But
what
look at
news.
Terrible.
And you know something, we can learn many things out of it. But you see, when people started to protest, including my own PNP women's organization, of which I'm the founding member, I have to give myself that little plug.
Yes.
Walking up and down on the streets more than once. Because women are now standing up for their rights and justice. That's what they were demanding. They were demanding justice. After what, 2.5 weeks?
Yep. Swift justice, because that's something we don't see.
My God.
Yes.
But you know something, maybe we can one of the things you mentioned is that this is relationship. What do you call it?
Relationship Tuesday, yeah.
I think from a deeply spiritual point of view that we are here to relate to each other. So at a spiritual level, we are falling very short. Very, very short. Because we are not relating. And the first relationship is to yourself. How do I relate to myself? How do I relate to this self who is not taking responsibility? This self that is not voting and saying it with pride? How am I relating to me? And then, how am I relating to you? How am I relating to my spouse, my children, my immediate family, my hybrid family? It's all about relationships. You check everything that is going toxic in this world, whether it is the geopolitical war, Ukraine, Russia. How are we relating to each other? We are not relating. And every time a woman goes down in this society because of something to do with her relationship to the person who is probably the closest to her, you know. The same man who's falling over, you know. Just turn into a devil.
Look at that.
Oh my God.
I hope we'll have more answers. At least we're closer. And as you said, I believe as well that standing up, protesting, marching, and demanding justice is what the people have to do
and
more of.
And democracy demands it.
Yeah.
You cannot have a democracy where everything is blamed on the government.
No.
Whichever government is there. That's a stupid act.
We love to do that.
It does, but it doesn't make any sense.
I want to go all of there with you because let's quickly go there. You know, I hear people, especially entertainers as well, them not mix up in the politics and, you know, how can you not be involved with the politics of the nation? What would you like to say about that? As a woman who has been in politics and still there, how you feel about women and men who say, I don't want to be a part of politics? Politics run the world, politics run the country.
And I want to make a distinction between politics in the wider sense and tribal politics.
Which you know a lot of in the 70s.
Is what is injuring us, right? It is not in our interest. But that's not to say like a man killing a woman is not a political matter. It is a political matter.
It is.
But in a democracy, if you don't have people voting, what happened the last time? 20%, 20-some percent?
Turned up
Lower votes for the governing party and 18 for the opposition. I mean, in the 70s we had 80-something. People have to get engaged. They have to know that politicians listen when you are on the street, when you are writing letters with 100 signatures, because we all have a part to play. Because I think most Jamaicans would believe in a genuine democracy. Let me take that back. My belief is in a genuine democracy, which means you're going to have genuine participation. So if the people don't have water, you must have a meeting that says. I remember when Bruce Golding brought in the, what was it you call it now? The Constituency Development Fund.
Yeah.
It came out, I think it came out of the NDM when he was in the NDM, and he brought it into the government. And that CDF, the whole point, is that you must get the leaders of the different communities together and say, we have this amount of money. How would you like it spent?
And the people have to go and ask, too. We can't just sit back and think that people are going to turn up at your doors. The great Beverly Manley is here with me. Born Beverly Lois Anderson, married Manley.
Lois Lois.
Oh, sorry. Lois?
Not Lois, you know.
What? Say it again.
Lois.
Oh, it's Lois.
My father would tell you. I'm Beverly Lois.
Oh, sorry. Beverly Lois Anderson. We heard about her as a little girl. Then we, as a broadcaster, she was everything. Yeah, multi-potentialite is what I call her.
Well supported.
Yes, she was guided. She got married. An interesting story now. In the 70s, you were at the great Edna Manley's house, the mother of your husband at this time in the 70s, 1972 to 1993. You spent 2 weeks with your mother-in-law.
93, I think, may have been the divorce.
That's when you got divorced.
But I actually left the marriage in 83. If I remember correctly.
Okay.
So I always say 10 years.
10 years.
But it's more like 11.
Okay, so you were with mother-in-law now for 2 weeks. You got married. The 70s. You talked about tribal politics. You talked about the war between the two rivaling parties, the PNP and the JLP. There you are now, standing in the middle of it all, doing your own thing, advancing the rights of women, the advocacy that you led, looking at maternity leave, and a lot of things that we enjoyed today. You were instrumental there. But my God, a black woman married to what Jamaican would call a brown man, a red man, or a white man, and you had to fight. There must have been some hard times, because being a wife ain't easy. And being a wife to the Prime Minister at the time, who was a ladies' man, no secret there. He had women all over, and you speak about it in your new documentary, Beverly Manley Uncensored. He had women right, left, and center, but still you were there, married, doing your thing, speaking, advocating. How hard was it really?
Well, his wife at the time, I can only speak for myself, was cherished and worshipped. So no matter who he had on the side, they couldn't say anything against me. And he really, as I said earlier, spoilt me. Up to now in my wardrobe, I have about 6 outfits that he would have bought for me in the early 70s. And he always bought the best.
He was a very charming man.
The best.
The best. And you can bring those dresses here too, you know. We'll be happy to wear them for you if they don't fit anymore. Because you were actually dashing. You were amazing.
He designed the wedding rings, you know.
Did he design that ring for you?
Like I have on the engagement ring now.
Yeah.
But there are 2 other pieces. One that went on top of the engagement ring and one that went underneath. So by the time you're finished, you had 3 rings with the diamond popping out.
Well, your diamond is surely popping out right now.
He designed all that.
Really?
He liked to take me shopping. And I'm not saying that this was in his playlist. So anybody else listening will know that you can tell your truth. I'm telling mine.
Yes.
You know, and just buy the best things. Amazing. He liked to see me dress up. You know, and I like dressing up.
Of course.
I really like dressing up.
Most women do.
Yes.
And then tell me about as Prime Minister at the time, the issues in the country. If we could do a quick snapshot for the younger generation from your eyes, what would you say were I'm going to ask you for 3 things that Michael Manley did for Jamaica. 3 main things that we must never forget from your eyes.
Okay. And I want to say this, that there were things that he did for the short term and things that I call foundational things. Let me tell you what I mean. And that's 3 of those I want to give you. The foundational things are the things that disrupt the societies, that it never is the same again. Those were the big things, the big idea things. So, for example, when we started what was then called the the impact work program, which was heavily criticized because people said they saw people on the streets leaning on their brooms. If I was sweeping the streets in the hot sun, I probably would lean on my broom. But that wasn't so much the point. The point is those women had never known what it was to earn a living for themselves and to go to the bank. I remember those early days when those women went into a bank to cash a check. It changed their lives forever, and for many of them, it was on their way to economic independence. And up to now, I don't think a woman can be truly free unless she's economically independent. That was driven into me from birth. Okay? So that I would call a foundational thing. That's going to last forever. The other thing that I think was interesting, it was like national housing trust. For the first time, there was going to be an organ, even as bad as things are and as As much as they criticize Michael, they had to name that building after him. The Michael Manley building. The National Housing Trust, which was to really make sure that the marginalized in society could own a home. When you read Lee Kuan Yew, and him tell the difference when his people started to own home. Because when you own home, it's like you own a piece of your country, It's a different person that. And then there were other things I call the financial institutions and that kind of thing. And the black thing, we were supported by Black Power in African America. We were supported by feminism, the new search towards feminism, internationally. And I came of age. I grew up quickly in the 70s because I was surrounded by the feminist movement. We had the first International Women's Year in 1975. It was amazing. And we could already see the cleavage between the third world women and the first world women.
Different experience.
Because the first world women were concentrating on getting better, almost, like a car. And so, of course, we were starting from we don't even have pipe water. So we quickly realized in the third world, and certainly in Jamaica and the Caribbean, that we had to do it across color and class, that we could not look at feminism in isolation. We had to look at it in terms of a woman who had to carry the water a mile to wash the man's clothes. You understand? And that she was of a certain class, if that's what she was doing. I mean, the whole thing becomes so energized. I don't even remember being tired. It was fantastic. I would leave home, and have 3 different outfits in the car, because maybe I couldn't get back home between outfits. You understand?
And a lot of young women listening, and the elder women listening, people are sending in messages saying, my God, having you on right now is bringing back a lot of memories. You were an inspiration for women at the time, and you were out there working for them right alongside your husband, who was leading. But you went through 2. We had the National Housing Trust.
Only 2 we did?
I think we did about 3, 4.
I think I mentioned the financial institutions, which now we were taking over, many of them, to make them more amenable to poor people. That's the whole discussion taking place again about whatever cost. But the one I really want to mention was the race, because, we still don't talk about it. Our motto is out of many, one people, right? But with all of that going on, and then the relationship with Cuba, let me tell you why I think that is a foundational one.
Yeah, you're not leaving till 3, because I haven't touched half of what I want to touch yet.
Because I don't have anything
Let's
else
go
to do,
there.
Right?
We locked the door.
The Cuban thing was to show that as a sovereign nation, we had a right to have relationships with the country that was closest to us, whatever their ideology was.
Right.
And, that has served us well to this day, because succeeding governments, including JLP governments who were critical of it at the time, now have relationships with Cuba and have to be fighting on behalf of Cuba, because it cannot be fair that you can't determine what it is that you want to govern you. And Michael was very strong about it. He felt very strongly about it. And let me tell you, anywhere we went in the Western world,
he would preach
the first question was, tell us about you and Fidel. And then you had this thing going on about, we don't understand how we don't want Michael to be converted by Fidel. He got so upset. He says, why aren't you worried that I will convert Fidel?
Let's go through a couple of things. This is love and relationship and politics.
The key there is a foundation.
He laid, right. When you were lying in bed, after a little love making and stuff, what conversations did you have about Edward Seaga now, the next Prime Minister? Did he like him at all?
He didn't like him.
How would he talk about him? When you're behind closed doors, what did he say?
He sort of fitted into the model that we had of him, that he was almost like an evil man.
Ooh, politics at the time.
Yes, and I mean, Michael, as Prime Minister, would have had a lot of intelligence. And by evil, I mean, was working actively actively against our democratic socialism, you know. So we never had spent much time on that.
But what about the peace law? I'm moving quickly because I know you have to go. What about the 1970s, was it 76?
Bob Marley?
The Peace Love concert with,
Bob?
Were you there?
Yeah, man. And Natasha was there. She was a little girl, and you know, it was kind of, we're advised not to take her. And maybe I shouldn't go. I said, what? Of course I have to go. So, and I took her. But the peace concert was a huge symbolic act. Notice I use the word symbolic act. And sometimes in politics, you need to have a huge symbolic act that will give people hope. But in terms of lasting peace, we know what happened there.
Yeah.
And the truth is, because they did not like each other, the two leaders really did not like each other. Michael used to talk, when he had to talk to Eddie, he would talk through Shera.
Yes.
He and Shera were very close.
And I'm going to just tell my listeners, you can find a lot of that in the documentary as well, Beverly Manley Uncensored. I have to move through a couple of things, most importantly, because it was another relationship. After you broke up there, right, and you've been through there, you started the PNP women's movement and really advocated for the women's rights. You then broke up. Then you married Dr. Duncan, DK Duncan, who was appointed in the Michael Manley administration, and people have said that you were undercover with Duncan while with Manley. Dispel that or confirm that for me, please. And how was he? Who was he compared? Yeah, what kind of man was he?
If you knew DK,
yeah,
you know there's nothing called undercover.
He's
a man who, he just shocked me with this. You know, he was like, he just blared his truth. Just didn't care. Having a relationship with Beverly Manley, so I'm having a relationship. I mean, even Michael was shocked at that. He said he didn't know that anybody could be so open.
And this is after your divorce, or this is while?
I think it started towards the end of marriage.
Because, as you said, you were kind of separated from Manley at the time.
Yes,
and
but even when I was in the marriage,
yes,
since I'm being uncensored,
yes,
it would have started. But it did not have anything to do with the breakup.
Okay.
The breakup.
Right.
Because I think I would have left anyway.
Why did you leave? If you could say the one thing that made you leave Manley, and then
ideology. The world shifted on us in the early 80s, and the neoliberals took over. And so I saw Michael and the PNP moving more to the center. And by then, under his tutelage, Michael's tutelage, I had become very left-wing and felt in order to get certain things done, you had to be of the democratic left. So when I saw that shifting, and I'm saying, how am I going to stay here? I used to say to people, ideology should be one of the reasons for divorce. Because I'm telling you, we loved each other. We loved each other. Of course, it got nasty after I left, because he always said, like his parents, he wanted to be with me until death. And he didn't want to have another marriage. He really wanted it to work, and he was, doing everything, whatever. So DK never broke it up.
Okay.
But I saw people arriving at my house who, in the late 70s and so on, would have wanted us, I don't know, I don't want to say killed, but wanted us out of there. You know, people were very hostile, started to arrive. And I as they drove in, I drove out.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't continue to live like this. So I think that is the main reason. Now, there is maybe it's a second main reason. I have never disclosed the first one, and I don't intend to do so. As uncensored as I am,
you can.
That one is mine.
There is something about women. We will always protect our men. And I guess in history, you want to preserve
Of
what
course,
many of us may know. But a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And a lot of times, I'll call you Auntie Beverly while I say this, because I say to women, but we have to talk our truth, because guess what? you're preparing the next generation to know that you're going to enter into something where anything is possible, no matter the man. But he has definitely paved the way for many of us. And then DK now, Dr. Duncan, you mentioned the former Prime Minister Bruce Golding, and full disclosure, that's my father-in-law. And then Mr. Duncan and Mr. Golding. How did
I like Bruce, you know?
But I was going to say the two of them were in the NDM at one point, if I remember clearly.
DK shifted. He left to PNP for the NDM. I was a witness, not so much a member, but a witness. And Bruce was very kind because he allowed me to sit in. You know, I'd always get his, can I sit in and listen to this? Can I sit? And all the time I'm witnessing it as a young political scientist. I'm saying, this thing full of too many JLP people who are here because I'm vexed with Eddie. You understand? This thing can't work. That's how I felt.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're just going to pick up on a couple of things. You know, the relationship as a mother. I know, Auntie Beverly, don't worry. I told him you're coming, Beverly Manley. Relationship. I just want to know about being a mom and being a grandmom, and then you can go. We should have brought wine for this, shouldn't we?
At least.
You know, get the wine.
All right, Ron.
The time by Campari is
2:34 in the afternoon, and I feel so good. All right, we're going to pick up a couple of things now. The great Beverly Manley is here with me. So one thing now, what did you love about Dr. Duncan, DK Duncan? We mentioned before the break that, you know, he was in Manley's administration. We know about the shift to the NDM, and then he came back. You must have been happy when he said, I'm going right back to the PNP. Tell me about your love relationship there.
I think a lot of people didn't realize that he was an intellectual, but he was also grounded in many of the experiences that I had growing up. While I was in Rollington Town, he was in Franklin Town. He went away to the country so you could get a Paris scholarship because his aunt, I think, was headmistress. 5 of them sleeping across the bed. You know, there were just so many things that we could share. And so between that and his brilliance as an organizer, when he coupled the intellectual, you know, I think it was Norman Manley, I don't know, when Michael, who said, you can't have political mobilization without political education. And so when I became chairperson, by the way, I was asked to be chairperson of the Political Education Commission in the 70s by P.J. Patterson. And I don't know what P.J. saw. I thought I could do the education at that time. And we had a highly successful program. But I just, working together, that's what I think. We worked together without certainly not on my part.
Right.
I didn't think of anything. And then once, I think it was when Michael was traveling, because he had to travel to earn money on lecture tours. My sister was staying with me at the time, and he was at a party like down the road, and somebody phoned and said DK has asked him to call me, to ask me to come. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe something. What else could it be? And my sister said, Beverly, don't go. And I said, why? It must be something to do with the politics. And Michael isn't here or whatever. She said, I'm begging you, don't go. I said, why? She said, I have seen how he looks at you.
And we'll hear
and
more.
And by the way, I went.
You went, and it was on from there. So he had children. Michael had children. You have children. Tell me about the relationship with all the children.
Oh, I became the mother for all of them, because before we got married, I said, any of your children going to grow up with me? And he said no, because they were all with whatever. And Rachel and I were friends before I met Michael. But she always saw Michael and me together.
Okay.
And she told me that.
And
she said,
Michael's
let me set
daughter.
up a date, man. Let me set up. And I would not do it. But we used to model together, and we got to know and like each other. So there was Rachel, then Joseph, and Sarah. Sarah is the one who I knew at the youngest. Because when Sarah came to us, she was, I don't know, first time 4 or 5, very young. So we bonded.
And these are his children from the previous 3 marriages?
He had 1 child with each marriage.
Oh.
And then he had 2 with me, Natasha and David, right?
Yeah.
And that was such a lovely time. I remember when we thought I was pregnant, we weren't sure, and he was traveling. I was having the usual upset thing. And he was traveling somewhere in the country. And he said he would call me when I came back from the doctor, like he'd stay at 3 o'clock, because we didn't have mobile phones. And when he called, I said, Michael, guess what? I'm pregnant. Oh, my God. It has to be the happiest time, don't you know?
Of course, yes. I've done mine too. It's
making
a beautiful
that baby
thing.
together and then having...
the making the baby was good.
The making
Right.
and just it's all like the baby, all of that part is sweet.
Well, I did. Let's go there.
I'm not encouraging people to have children.
Really?
No, unless you think it through.
Okay.
How am I going to feed this child?
How did you manage raising those children in such a political climate? There was so much violence. It was just uncomfortable when we look back at that era.
It was tough on
How did you
Natasha.
manage?
David came after the election, He came in the election year, 1980. So he always said, he wasn't around for much of the drama.
Right.
And he was actually born very premature, about 6 months. So he spent about 6 weeks in the hospital. And that's a whole other experience that I want to write about for women who have premature babies. It's quite an experience. Natasha was very difficult for her because we took her everywhere we went and people were literally clutching at her because that was a time now when we were popular and and if she was born in 74 and she got to the stage where she just said, I don't want to do this anymore when she was about 5. So she went to school during that time, so did Sarah, and it was tough. And I'll never understand how tough it was, but it was tough. Because when Michael was being heavily criticized, she got some of it, And so by the time she was, 16, she said she wanted to just leave, to go to school.
And she left.
She left and she did her A-levels in London and did very well and has just lived abroad ever since. Yeah.
And you are not going anywhere. I heard bits in the documentary where you say, and other interviews that, your family has gone abroad, but you don't want to leave Jamaica.
No, I'm not leaving Jamaica.
You're here. You're here till the end. You'll be here till the end.
Look, when DK died, the children, whether my biological children or not, said, remember, you have an option.
Yeah.
Just come. My sister lives in Florida. Just come. Can't. I love Jamaica.
You miss these men?
Eh?
You miss them?
What?
Yeah, death is hard
That
too.
is what I have to work on every day.
It's a relationship Tuesday. Is there something after this? I know we're going to tell your age. You might as well, because this is history.
No, but everybody knows.
She's 80 years old now.
81 in November.
81 this year.
Yeah.
Are you looking for love again?
Oh, I'm always looking for love.
Yeah.
I am love.
Yeah, are you looking for romantic love?
We come from love.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
I could handle a romantic love.
Yeah?
Yes.
Well, we have a dating show. We'd love you to come on it. It's the last Tuesday of every month. This is going to be fun, finding the next hot man for the lady, Beverly Manley. I want to run through a couple things real fast. We have a few more minutes, and I'm going to let you go. The Kariba suit.
Abby Ralph.
Listen, yes, and I had Shirley Ralph on the show the other day.
Yes, I hear, yes.
And we talked about her mom who designed the Kariba suit that Michael Manley made so popular. We should bring it back. It's so hot when we wear these European suits
What
to
is wrong with us?
Come on. You and I need to advocate for that to come back.
Yes.
On
behalf of men.
Yeah. This is what we do best. And your grandmother, congratulations.
Congrats. David has 2 sons.
Yes.
One, I think maybe one is 6 and a little one who is like 3.
Yeah.
And then Natasha has a daughter who is 7 and a son who is 4. The little girl, Leah, she's the oldest of the grandchildren. And Natasha did bring them 1 year and they spent a whole month with me, thank God.
Yes.
But she is something else. And she, you know how they do it in the States. Well, she's in London now, but they look for a neighborhood where the school is first class. And that little girl is in a school where them talk about race, them talk about class, them they have special days for special children, like, I said, what are you doing today in school? And she says on the phone, Guatemala. I said, okay. And what do you know about Guatemala? And she can tell me because she know what her line was in the lineup that I have. And then Natasha wrote me one day and said, you know, somebody asked Leah at school about her grandmother. And Leah said that she told him that her grandmother fights for women's rights.
I love that.
And she said to her mother, is she still fighting for women's rights? Because that's what I told them.
Yes.
And Natasha said,
Yes, she still is. Well, what are the plans for you over the next few years? What are you looking forward to doing? The documentary is out. We'll tell them about your book as well and all the other things that you're excited about.
I'm writing another book.
Yeah?
Yes. I haven't got very far. It's in my head. I could sit down right now and just write it. You know, I have all the ideas. You know, it starts in the mind. So that's going on. And then it's not really a sequel to the other book. It's more to do with my transformation work, how we can become our best selves, the kind of thing you talk about every day. And I'm also thinking of a podcast. I've been thinking about that for maybe 10 years. I think I'm ready for it.
The
because
time is
I
now.
don't want to do it unless I can be telling the truth, my truth. I can't do it. I have to tell my truth.
And we only have one life, so you
Yeah,
better
at this
do it.
age, you know, so I'm looking at that. And then I want to see if I can, the advocacy for early childhood education, which was the first thing I advocated for when I visited almost every early childhood school in Jamaica and brought it a step further. But it's still not there if we don't catch the children, you know, early. We have wasted their lives.
Yeah.
Because when you catch them early, they can almost educate themselves.
That's right.
So that's the third era.
We're looking forward to seeing it. So Beverly Manley Uncensored, the documentary is out. Adtelligent TV on YouTube. We've seen the first part of the series, which premiered on Sunday, and the others will be there. So you
I think
just
the
have
second one is this Sunday. I think
this
it's every Sunday.
Every Sunday for the month of
next,
August.
yes.
Yeah. And her book is also available. Still, the Manley
I'm
Memoirs.
not sure.
Not
But it
sure.
did well.
It did very well. Sonia, where's my copy?
Sonia borrowed it.
Listen. No, I'm supposed to get hers. She gonna bring it tomorrow? Borrow it. May I borrow it and not give it back? You know, when people borrow a book, they never bring it back.
I know.
So we wish you all the best with everything, and we have 60 seconds. Favorite food? Go.
Oh, my God.
Favorite food?
Mackerel and banana.
Mackerel and banana. Favorite song?
Gramps Morgan. There's a... Oh, there.
Yes.
There's a place. There's a place.
Gramps, I love you.
I love you, Missy.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I love him.
He's
I just want to
amazing.
put my arms around him.
Yes. Are you a dancer?
What? Big time, man.
Could Michael dance?
Well, let's say that he learned to dance.
Could DK Duncan dance? Hey, drop foot.
What?
And what's your favorite drink? White rum? You said it earlier.
Maybe.
But
one glass, you know. One
Just
drink.
one.
One drink.
Just one and we good.
One drink.
Your favorite patois saying?
I saw it set.
Let
me tell you why it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Because I can quickly turn it around so that people know it not sets nothing.
Oh.
How you set it.
How you set it.
Yes.
But
it provokes me to think through something else. Yes.
I hear you. All right, we're going to hear more about Beverly Manley when we watch this documentary. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much. You didn't have to, but you came to have lunch with me. I'm honored. I'm grateful.
What
and
a
I wish
pleasure.
you the best in everything you do.
I see so much of myself in you at that young age.
And I see me in you at your age.
What can I say? You know, there's a famous book that says there's only one of us here.
Yes.
Okay, it's a good place to come from.
I tell you.
There's only one of us here.
Yes. And you're aging like fine wine. I tell you. Looking
God is
absolutely
good.
beautiful. God is good.
All the time.
And all the time?
God is good.
Beverly Manley, right here on a Relationship Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here, my lady. All right, women, let's stand together in solidarity. May we have more peace. May we have more of our story being told. Because if we don't tell our story, then nobody else will.
And we are the peacemakers.
Yes, we are. Let's bring some peace on this day. Thank you so much, Beverly Manley.